Hello and welcome to
CRHEATE.
I'm delighted to be joined today by Ali Frear, Associate Director of Marketing and Advancement at Loughborough University. Hi, Ali.
Hi, Ian. Thanks for having me.
And what are we going to look at today?
Well, today, Ian, I'd really like for us to look at the Endangered Generation by Monash University. Video piece that was created, I think, about a year ago. So I'd like us to review that today.
Let's take a look.
Look how far we've come. From harnessing the first spark of electricity to reaching the depths of space. We create, innovate, and progress society. What we've achieved is simply incredible. But take a step back and what else do you see? The climate is in disarray and entire ecosystems are disappearing. We're divided, from gender to race to religion and politics. We've made progress in some areas, yet regressed in others. At times, we don't know who to trust. Global pandemics and unhealthy lifestyles are putting our health at risk. Our very existence is swinging in the balance. We've been so preoccupied with the new that we forget. It's not us who will have to deal with the consequences. It's those who will inherit the world from us. It's time for us to act. It's time to change it. Because if we don't do something now, there's no telling what our future generations will face.
So, Ali, somebody with your experience, there are hundreds of pieces of film or content produced by universities you could have chosen. Why have you picked this one to discuss?
You're absolutely right. There are hundreds, and it was really difficult to choose. As a creative and visual person, I get, overwhelmed sometimes by the amount of amazing content out there. But this one really sort of cut through. And I think the reason I wanted to talk about it was really because of the emotional journey that it takes you on as a viewer. And I think when we're looking to produce video content, as universities, we want to be able to provide either information or we want to create feelings for people. And this one really does get you in the feels. And then it takes us on a bit of a journey. And, we talk about how as a world, as a global world, we've progressed so much with innovation and technology, and the things that we've created and innovated have been fantastic, and they've moved us on to be the sort of contemporary world we are today. But it also then stops and sort of tells us not to be complacent. And I love that. It's like, yeah, haven't we done well? It's almost reminds me of at school, my mum and dad used to say to me, you've done really well, but, and then it cuts in with that, the kind of the but almost the full stop. But look where we are. We've got, this huge challenge ahead of us. And then it goes through a number of very sort of political, topical, religious factors that, we need to consider as a society, and really sort of makes us challenge that and think about that in a way that I think other universities haven't done. And it doesn't talk at all about, the normal things that universities would talk about. It doesn't talk about student recruitment. It doesn't talk about careers. It doesn't talk about all the things that as universities we normally talk about. You feel like you want to be part of something that's going to make a difference. And, their change it statement right at the end really makes you feel like you want to go on and do something about it. So I think they were the kind of main things that came out of it for me. And, from a creative perspective, the way that they've produced it, the imagery that they've used, the script that goes with it, that enhances and highlights those visual cues and ties between scenes is really emotive. And I think the bit that really got me, there was a line in it that said, those who will inherit the world from us. So when they talk about the fact that all of these problems need to be solved and we can't be complacent, we've got to do something about it. it really makes you stop and think at that line, because it talks about, you know, it'll be okay for us because we're kind of like not going to be here. But hang on a minute, what about our future generations? What happens to them? You know, as a society, we kind of drift from generation to generation. And, you know, in my lifetime, we've moved forward with technology. There's been all sorts of global challenges in my lifetime, but we've seen that progression of innovation and technology and where it's taken us, you know, with mobile phones, with the internet, with those simple things. Now we're talking about climate, we're talking about things that could actually render us completely gone, you know, and do we want that for our future generations? No, we don't. You know, we don't want our children's children to suffer. So it makes you really think about that in a way that I don't think I've ever seen anybody do before.
Yes, it's storytelling on a proper grand scale, and for a university to take that on, unashamedly take it on, but with such a clear sense of purpose without being utterly parochial about it. You know, Change It and Monash come up right at the end, like the full stop. So it does pull you right to the end, and there is a conclusion that if you do want to change it, you go to Monash. That's quite right. That they're setting their stall out as a brand, but the nature of the storytelling, the script, as you said, it embraces everybody, and I think that's a real art in that. So you're right. You pulled out that kind of really pivotal bit in the script where it talks about the people that are going to inherit and are they endangered. I mean, this is big stuff that's normally the kind of thing that you would see on a Hollywood blockbuster, you know. But
absolutely,
you know, they're doing it in a kind of minute and a half or whatever it is. The other thing that I think is interesting with it is that there's quite a mishmash of visuals in it, and you know, from old footage and obviously contemporary shot footage, maybe library footage and things like that. But actually, that works brilliantly. It gives it a journalistic quality almost, and what it showed me is just the strength of that script is phenomenal in holding together these disparate images, and a lot of them largely the kind of lab shots, etc., that you might expect to see from any university, but put into this context, all of a sudden they totally shine. So yeah, I think it's a really great piece of work.
Yeah, I totally agree on the point about the different sort of approaches to visual use, and I think that's probably one of the things that makes it feel quite impactful actually against the script. I don't think you could have done it any other way, particularly with some of the material that they needed to use to show specific challenges, because they would have been outside of their own country, for example. And I think, you know, just bringing together, it feels, you know, we often sort of avoid library shots because we don't want things to be inauthentic, or unauthentic. But I think in this case, it works really well to the script. It plays well to the script. It feels like it's got a really nice pace as well. It keeps you going the whole way through. You know, I'm terrible at being distracted, you know, by shiny creative things, and if I'm watching something, I could then be distracted by something else. But this had me from the second I watched it right to that end, full stop. Really, you know, it really draws you in, and I think that there is a combination of things there. There is the strong script, there is the mixture of treatments and visual, you know, the visual application, but the story, you know, the story that's woven through it keeps it all together, it knits it all together so beautifully, and it's just so different. I think it's just so different from anything that I've seen before.
I think another thing is that the strength of that particular story, but subsequently, like the platform of Change It, you'll see that then replicated in other films that they've produced, that make this feel like it's part of a series, part of a mission. And there's a really good piece they did, a future without change around this, recruitment program they did about, I think, what was it, 17 courses that shouldn't exist. I mean, it's got great tension in it, and it carries on that sense of emotional kind of intensity from this initial brand film through to things like recruitment, etc. So powerful.
Yeah, I think where universities are being a bit provocative and being a bit, sort of elbows out and different is where they're differentiating themselves in the market. Is where they're cutting through everything else that seems very similar. You hit on a good point there around the kind of material that Monash are producing. When I was doing some research on this and looking at it in a bit more detail, I picked up on a number of things that they're doing. I was particularly impressed with their What Happens Next podcast series as well. It feels like their whole sort of content strategy and brand strategy are so entwined and so consistent. It feels like there's real consistency in the message that they're putting out, which is sort of threading through everything they do. So there's a strong brand position, I think, for Monash, shining through the work that they're doing, and you can really see that just by looking at a few pieces of work.
Great positioning, great idea, fantastic execution. I mean, I think a lesson for everyone in the sector.
Yeah, totally agree. Certainly caught my attention anyway, Ian.
Thank you very much for your time today and reviewing this piece of work. Thank you.
You are very welcome. It's a pleasure.